let's move on to topic number 7 tonight. Speaking of drive-through penalties, there probably should have been a couple served in the Hungarian Grand Prix. And in a couple of people's minds, I know the Red Bull fans would have liked to see a couple of drive-through penalties handed out. But hey, instead, Valtteri Bottas has got himself a 5 grid penalty when we come back from the summer break, when we return to Spa, Belgium. So that's something that Mercedes and Valtteri Bottas are going to have to take into play. But the Hungarian Grand Prix, boy, was it an exciting race, with Esteban Ocon getting his first win in F1 for the Alpine F1 team. And boy, was it an exciting race, nonstop. You had some great wheel-to-wheel action. Producer Ben, what do you got for us here? What's your reaction on some post-race?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that we knew there were going to be sparks in this race, right? Yep. Everyone thought that the sparks were going to be directly between Max and Lewis, the 2 top racers right now. But what all of us also knew was that Red Bull and apparently a lot of the field are going to try to find any sort of connection they can to blame the man, Lewis Hamilton, for their own faults, right? So it's Bottas. Yes, he's on the Mercedes team, but how many people out there can actually say that this man crashed his car deliberately? And not only that, but he knew exactly how, it's like, I'm a decent pool player and I can hit a combo shot, but can I hit a combo shot that's an F1 car in the rain with like 3 or 4 drivers, so that everybody gets out of it? Except, the only person who gets out of it, is Lewis. So the fact that they're trying to tie this back to the man, Lewis Hamilton, okay, 7-time F1 champ, my favorite driver on the track. I love, Max. I love, I love what Aston Martin's doing, and that race between Alonso and Lewis was great. But until you can start winning championships yourself, you have to stop. You have to put the excuses to bed and start racing. Okay, Hamilton and Mercedes don't even have the best car this year, but they're now in the points lead. And it's because Red Bull is taking their eye off the track, I guess. I mean, I don't know too many F1 cliches, but what I can tell you is that they've complained themselves into a bit of a hole. I think that Verstappen obviously has the skills to come back, and I think we're going to see a few more points leader changes after we get out of the summer break and back onto the track. I think we're going to see a few changes back and forth. But to try to blame this somehow on Lewis Hamilton, in my mind, is just absolutely bonkers. So for all you F1 fans out there who wanted to complain, oh, Max is down, I think, like 7 points after, he's been taken out here and there and he had his tire blowout and everything. You need to make it through that to become an F1 champion. And until they start owning it, I don't think you're going to see Max take the title home this year. But I've been looking forward to your take on this, Brandon. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I don't want to go into too much of the Bottas crash because we have a whole topic on that next. But I do want to talk about a little bit, I'm sure some of the Red Bull fans and Max fans are looking in any kind of conspiracy way to be able to tie Valtteri Bottas and Mercedes to be basically taking out the Red Bulls and making the championship a lot tighter. Because like you said, right now, Lewis Hamilton now has an 8-point lead over Max Verstappen going into the summer break. And hey, that's where we're going to be standing. And also the new leader in the team drivers constructors championship is Mercedes. So they've also taken that lead from Red Bull. So I know Red Bull fans are upset, but you can't tie that. There's no conspiracy in F1. Valtteri Bottas is not going to risk his life on a conspiracy for his team or for Lewis Hamilton. Trust and believe that. Too many dangerous things that happen on the track for a conspiracy like that. So anybody that is thinking that is absurd and hasn't watched F1 enough. But man, was this an amazing race, this Hungarian Grand Prix, with Esteban Ocon winning his first Grand Prix ever for Alpine F1, formerly Renault. And man, is he excited. And you know what? His teammate helped him win it. Okay, Fernando Alonso, with his battle with Lewis Hamilton, was probably the best on-track action we've seen all year. Probably a battle that went on for about 10 laps, nonstop, just back and forth, corner after corner. Fernando Alonso just sticking his car in the right spot and in the right points to be able to fend off the 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton and keep him back. Because if he did not, I can guarantee you, if Lewis Hamilton got by Fernando Alonso a few laps earlier, he would have went down to chase down Sebastian Vettel and then chase down Esteban Ocon for the win, because this Mercedes car is just so much better right now than the Alpine or the Aston Martin. And you saw, actually, once he did get by Fernando Alonso, that he was pretty much in their rear view when they were crossing the finish line. So that brings to me no doubt in my mind, if Fernando Alonso doesn't pull off that great defensive driving, that Lewis Hamilton would have went on to win the Grand Prix and opened up even a bigger lead in the Drivers' Championship. So I think right now, Max and Red Bull should be kind of licking their wounds and happy that it's only an 8-point lead right now.
Mm-hmm. You know, Brandon, I started out talking about the crash because that's how the race started. But you rightly got me back on track. Okay, I'll focus. We all had a heart palpitation when that crash happened, and when we knew what was going to happen. So let's talk about the rest of the race then. Okay, so they went and did their formation lap, right? And basically it was coming down. Lewis was going turn after turn, saying the tires are dry, the corners are dry. Well, and they were trying to communicate. I know there was some question as to if there would be allowed communication between the teams and the drivers. And due to some of the rules here, they were allowed some communication, from what I understand, to the pit crews. And it was a combination of, Lewis was giving them the feedback that the corners were dry and the sky looked dry. In Mercedes, they said, stay on, don't pit, don't go into the box. We're not going to go for the slicks. And of course, because right now it's like Lewis Hamilton is, even though at the time he wasn't the point leader, it's still, he had pole position and everybody wants to take the king down. So basically, when they saw him stay out on his intermediate tires, that was the perfect opportunity for all the rest of the teams to go in and put on the slicks. I think that if you had seen the opposite of it, where he had gone into the box and put on his slicks, you might have seen everyone else continue on and stick with the intermediate tires. And then in that case, Hamilton would be starting at the back of the pack. So it was a gamble, but it was amazing. And I want to know your take on it, because that race between Alonso and Hamilton, when they were going around the turns and Hamilton was pressing and trying to be safe in the pass and respectful. Yeah. But Alonso just made that racing was absolutely gripping. But before that, Brandon, when Hamilton went and got his slicks on, he came back out and he was then at the back of the pack. If not last place, he was pretty much in the the last two. I know he was in last place, I think. So what you saw for the rest of the race, you heard him on the radio say to his team, "I'm not sure, what do we do here, guys?" And they said, "If anyone can do it, Lewis, it's you." And what he went on to do in that race was nothing short of phenomenal. And if it wasn't for the man Alonso, he probably would have come back to win first place in that race. Red Bull fans are going to say, well, that's because Max had half of a car. And I get it. And when you take a look at the pictures and you see that wing that was destroyed on his vehicle, I give Max a lot of credit for that. But the man, Lewis Hamilton, from last place, going car by car, and just overtake by overtake. And we all got to watch it and experience it. And that's a race that I think is going to go down, at least for me, as one of the best ones to watch, because it was like he was basically going through the neighborhood and saying to each person, okay, here you go, I'll pass you. And then here we go, I'll pass you. And here we go, I'll pass you. Yeah. I wanted him to take the pole position and ride it out and win that first place, just straight out of the pole. But the way he did it is nothing short of amazing. So after we got through that crash and he got the slicks on, what was your take on the rest of the race? How did they perform?
Well, yeah, you bring up a great point, how it quickly went from a wet race to a dry race. And it really, you can't even say it was a wet race. It was just a little bit of a slick track with a little bit of an oily track, a little bit of a light rain. And I think that was just really one of those calls where I honestly think that was a fumbled call by Mercedes, in my opinion. So I have a little different view on it than you. I believe that Mercedes fumbled that call and made a bad strategy call, and they should have also came in and got the slick tires and put on the dry tires. If you've seen him come in and put on dry tires right there, he probably would have easily went on to win the race because of the car that he was in and the pace that he has and the driving ability that Lewis Hamilton has around the Hungaroring. He is possibly one of the best drivers on that track. But like you said, once he made that decision of being the only car out there, which many F1 fans, including myself, had never seen anything like that, one car on the grid for a restart. And I think all of us were tweeting out being like, this is crazy. This is amazing. But hey, he came in, put on the dries just a lap later, and then made his way back through the field with a masterclass drive that just shows that Lewis Hamilton is one of the best drivers on the grid. But I've also definitely got to give some credit to Max Verstappen, because after that first lap incident, he could have easily retired that car with all the damage that he took. He was missing half of his floor off of that car, which we all know with the 2020 and 2021 cars that the floor generates a ton of downforce. So pretty much when Christian Horner made that comment of, hey, not too bad with half a car, he was not lying. Max Hamilton, I want to say that. Those are the two guys battling. Max Verstappen was pretty much out there driving with half a car and driving to score some points and possibly driving for a chance to win that championship at the end, because every point matters. I think Max Verstappen knows that. He has matured enough to know, hey, we're not going to retire this car. We're going to try to get it to the end, and I'm going to try to do everything I can. And believe it or not, look at that. He was missing half the floor. He was still making overtakes himself, proving that he is one of the best drivers on the grid, along with the likes of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc and Daniel Ricciardo, in my opinion. So it's just really one of those things where, man, it was an exciting Grand Prix from the start to the finish, with Esteban Ocon getting his first F1 win and his first Grand Prix win. So this was just an amazing Grand Prix race, and I think F1 fans were not let down at all. I think they enjoyed every second of it.